What's up, people? I don't know why the fuck I started off my video like that, but you know, I digress. I wanted to talk about a specific subject matter. Actually, a couple of things, but I didn't know if I wanted to make this a podcast episode or just like a couple of rants. We'll figure it out along the way. Um, so I was thinking about relationships, right? I was thinking about just that dating, I guess you could say, and how I really don't have experience much in those realms. I've talked to people before, but I could never really confidently say I was in a relationship with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Um, like at least long term. And I'm talking about outside of the talking stage. I don't think I've ever had that either. So but it's not to harp on that necessarily. And I think part of it is because of the way our society is nowadays and the pressures a lot of young people feel when it comes to having to have their life together in order to even think about caring about another person. And that's with regards to financially, being okay, um, just spiritually, mentally, all that, physically, just like the idea of being in a better position in life. When in the past, that wasn't a thing. But in today's society, where in every state you have to be making over 110 grand just to live comfortably without worrying about inflation, I guess I can understand a little why the last thing on people's mind would be dating. But I digress. Growing up in school, right, it was always a touchy matter to me, like when it came to like talking to girls that, you know, I liked. There were a bunch, now that I think about it. And I part of me was like, I guess I was just super antisocial. I didn't really have friends outside of like if I was in band, like all those people. It would be people that I would kind of open up to over the year and we would be cool, right? We would gel, we would hang out, we would talk, we would sit together at lunch, that kind of thing. Outside of that, I didn't really have a community or friends. And, you know, like I feel like I was always surrounded by people, and I'm not talking about my family, of course. I'm talking about like outside of that. Um, I was always surrounded by like other kids who were like dating or like in relationships, and I was just kind of like, look at these kids, they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing, right? Um, they're probably all gonna break up after high school or some shit, right? Which probably was the case. I'm not trying to hate. Um, I hope not for some of them because I went to a school where teen pregnancy was pretty common. Um, so like ninth grade, I would see like girls in my homeroom class that were like 7 months pregnant. No joke. Um, but yeah, um, which is crazy looking back. That's a whole life commitment, and you're in high school. You don't even know what you're trying to do in life yet, and now you have a kid. But anyways, just like the idea of being in relationships to me is still something that I'm like figuring out. I feel like I'm in a place where I could regulate my emotions a lot better. Um, just in general, like I'm not easily stressed out like I used to be. Mentally, I don't think I'm always all over the place as I used to be, although there's a lot of things I could still work on. I'm better these days at communicating with people um, and keeping things short, but that's still something I'm actively trying to work on. So, in those areas, I feel like I'm doing all right, but I don't know. It's an interesting topic to me because I'm still very inexperienced in that realm. And I feel like part of me is just really deeply ashamed of that. Like, I've never been in like a long term relationship when I feel like most people by my age probably have a couple of times. I'm 26 for reference. Um, and like, I think I've only like talked to one person. And that was tough. And mind you, like, I was really, I guess, like in a point in my life where, like, prior to talking to that person, like a year or so before that, I was talking to like people that I just like remotely liked, because I was like, let me just see if there's like part of me was like testing to see if I could just like reach out to people respectfully and, you know, gauge to see if people are interested in me, because it's weird how your perception of relationships are when you've never been in one, and how you might think somebody likes you when in reality they were just being really nice. And that, like, I've realized that a lot, like, oh, these people don't like me in that kind of way, but they're really nice towards me, which is fine. But like, there's so many women that, like, in general in my past I would have never had the courage to like ask somebody out, right? Because I feel like in society men have that pressure of like having to, you know, court the women. If there's a woman that they feel like they like, um, if even if the woman likes the man too, it's that burden of like, you know, as a man, you're the one who's supposed to approach her and kind of like let her know like you really like her, whatever. And then even when it comes to marriage, your responsibility to propose. Like, to me, that's, it seems like minimal things that you feel like a guy would be used to by now, like with the way we've evolved. But to me, I'm a very still like introverted person on the inside, and that's a lot of pressure, you know. Um, and a lot of my relationships also, or like talking to people, has been online, because it's kind of embarrassing, the idea of asking somebody out that you probably will end up seeing every day. You know, like, imagine you ask somebody out and they are like just nicely reject you, even if it's not rude, or hell, even if they rudely reject you, and it's somebody who you have to like the next day go to work and see, and it's like, hey, you know, you have to try to crack jokes again, and it's just like, it's not hitting the same, because now their perception of you is very different, right? But anyway, I was just thinking about that a lot these days, because part of me feels like I'm ready for that aspect of life, but I just don't know how to approach it. Um, I'm kind of, part of me is waiting on people to approach me, you know, which probably will never happen. Which, if that's the case, would be a sad existence, but I'm fine with it, you know, at this point. Um, at this point, that's like the least of my worries, in a sense. Um, I was also thinking about, like, you know, there are times where there were women that I really liked, um, that I would be talking to for like a while, and like, you know, we were like, a lot of my relationships, weirdly enough, because, you know, I took in at a young age like the best way to kind of like form relationships with people, even women, is just like the starting of like friendship, which I've realized that's not the same for everybody, because there are women out there who, like, if they see you solely as a friend, the moment you express any kind of romantic interest in them, that will like throw their whole world off and be like, oh my god, ew, you know. Like, it's just like, it depends on the person. I've experienced that before, and it's very embarrassing. Uh, but yeah, it's different for every person. But I just think about those times, man. Um, and I also think about, like, you know, there was this one girl that I really liked, that I found myself asking her out once, and she respectfully was just like, you know, I don't really see it, but thanks for asking. I really respect it. Something like that. Months later, you know, we were still talking, chatting it up, and for some reason I felt like I liked them even more, and I asked them out respectfully again, and they're like, listen, I think you're cool, but I'm just not feeling it, you know. But I appreciate you asking. And then it got to a point where, like, again, months later, I was like, are you sure? And they're like, listen, bro, it's not like that. You know, they had to kind of tell me that. And I'm kind of embarrassed by that admission, because to me, it's a sense of like desperation that I would go that far to like ask somebody out, even if it's respectfully, like several times. Because the truth of the matter is, and I mean, I'm kind of glad I learned this lesson, but I mean, it's kind of common sense. Um, and of course, as a guy, like, you see things like, because for me, I was really embarrassed to ask people out. So like, I'd be looking up on Reddit how to talk to people, how to ask people out, because I'm like that bad. I'm that much of a loser, you know. I'm that bad at being social with women. Um, and they'll be like, my wife that I am with now for 25 years, I've asked out 95 times. And on the 95th time, she was like, yeah. And I'm just like, okay, bet. I got 90 more times to go. But then I realized very quickly, no the fuck I don't. I don't even have one more time. I have -2 times. I should have left it at one. Because the truth is, if you express your interest to somebody, right, and they respectfully decline, if they end up developing feelings for you, and that's another thing when it comes to like trusting in another person, right? Because in a sense, you're invalidating that you have trusted that person by like consistently asking them. If they really like you, already know by your admission that you are interested in them. They would have let you know. Um, and that was interesting to me to like learn that way. And to this day, me and that person are still pretty cool. I talk to them every now and then, like in a friendly way. Um, but yeah, man, it's. I guess I also put a lot of pressure on myself, burdens to like get into relationships, because as a young kid, especially like with my dad being Somali, like the old African dad kind of trope of just like, why aren't you married? You hear that all the time, like as memes, but it's genuinely a thing for foreign families. Like my parents got married in their 30s. My mom obviously, her first marriage was when she was like 24 or 20, right? And then to my dad, it was like when she was like 30 years oldish, you know. And so right now I'm 26. I have 4 years to get to know somebody and then to marry them with that level of thinking. And even to that, to my dad, was like a little late. So like ever since I was like 16, my dad. I mean, even before that, like I was 10 and my dad was talking to me about getting married, and it's just like you have this pressure, this expectation that's placed upon you, just because of cultural norms to like, you know, and especially with the way society is nowadays. Um, Marriage doesn't just come with like, oh, I'm with this person now, we're together, we're gonna have a family. Like all of that means I have to have my life together. Otherwise, I'm gonna be stressed out my entire life, kind of like how you were, Dad. The reason you left our family, you know. Got a little too deep there, but I mean, it's true. It's like you like with the way the economy is right now, the way the world is, like you're implying that through me getting married and having a family that I have to then have my life together by the time I'm 30. And I'm 26 and I don't have shit figured out, meaning I have 4 years to start a family with that level of thing. You know how stressful that is, especially when like it's not even 4 years. Like my dad probably thinks right now that I'm a late bloomer. I'm 26 and I don't have a family. Um and so in a sense I kind of place that expectation on myself of like feeling like I had to be financially okay, and all this other stuff, be in the right place, my career has to be figured out, my acting has to be working out, all this shit, a lot of stuff of which I can't control, um, all because of that one expectation. I digress, but yeah, that's just interesting to me, man. I guess to all the young men out there who are watching this, my main takeaway, I guess, would be if you like a girl, and especially if it's on the internet, if there's no way in which you could ever like make that real world connection with that person, give it up. And then if there is a way, if you ask them out once or hell twice and they kindly and respectfully decline, I would leave it at that. No matter how many stories you hear of people saying like I did it 5 times and on the fifth time, I cracked that egg. It's like no, just leave it, bro. Leave it. Like have some trust, respect that person, and just kind of think about it a little more deeply, because I feel like as young men, a lot of, with the way the world is, with the way the entertainment media is, whatever, we're kind of taught to like fall into lust a lot. Fantasy, you know, Uh, think like, is this somebody who, outside of that I really feel like I could gel with? Their personality, their interests, their sense of humor, their just everything. Think everything outside of sex. All right, because we live in a hookup culture in society. It's not about that, because you need to have a meaningful life. Um, I'm saving you like 10 years potentially. So, yep. Thank you for watching.